In almost every photo, there's an attempt to highlight something primary, setting it apart from the secondary. It can be challenging to emphasize just one thing, and sometimes even impossible, but more often than not, there's a main subject in the frame that the photographer is conveying to the viewer. This narrative can be from the perspective of the main subject, or it can be told using its surroundings, or even a detail of the main object. Let's try to build our classification on this basis. A wide shot, or long shot, is when the main subject in the frame occupies a small amount of space compared to its surroundings. For instance, in a given photo, the viewer can discern that a house is the central element, but the house can't convey much to the viewer since it's depicted so small. We can hardly discern any details. However, the house remains the focal point, and the story about this house is told by its surroundings. Thus, a wide shot is when we learn about an object mainly through the environment in which it's placed. One of the most challenging tasks when shooting in wide shot is to highlight the main object. And sometimes a photograph might seem to lack a narrative, as if it doesn't convey anything but merely sets a mood. Such shots are hard to make engaging and memorable. Therefore, in the early stages of honing your photographic skills, it's useful to always find the main subject for every shot and build your narrative around it. A medium shot is when the main character occupies much more space and begins to tell something about themselves. Now, there are two equal narrators in the photograph: the subject itself and its surroundings. Medium shots are a favorite among documentary photographers. They work exceptionally well when displaying an action, especially an interaction. It's an excellent choice for dynamic plots. But perhaps the medium shot is the most challenging to execute. It requires care both in terms of frame composition and the expressiveness of the main subject. It's essential that alongside the expressiveness of the main event, the frame should contain the surroundings only as much as necessary for the shot. Everything superfluous should be removed from the frame, and every detail should be in its place. Excessive background details can be obscured, for instance, by using a low shooting angle. A close-up is when the main object tells about itself. In a close-up, the inner world of the hero is more important than the external one. Therefore, the environment virtually tells the viewer nothing, doesn't carry any semantic weight, and is used more for balancing the composition or conveying subtle nuances. The framing for a close-up is most often quite simple. The background is usually blurred, or a suitable angle is chosen where the background is almost invisible. If you're hesitant to get rid of the background, then you shouldn't opt for a close-up, go for a medium shot. That is, think about how the main character will interact with the environment. An extreme close-up and detail is when some detail of the main object dominates the frame, telling us a story about that object. This detail should be an expressive feature of the object. Moreover, it's important that this detail tells us not about itself, but about the object it belongs to. It's easy to get this wrong, but don't be afraid of mistakes. They'll only help you find the right balance. Of course, not everything in photography abides by strict rules, but keeping at least these basic principles in mind makes thinking and acting much easier, especially if you are a beginner photographer. Before taking a picture, ask yourself, who will tell about the hero? The hero themselves, their detail, or their surroundings? Or maybe both the detail and the surroundings? The answer to this question will suggest a compositional solution to you. Perhaps the most challenging thing when choosing a shot size is the balance between medium and close-up shots. If the plot implies, for example, a close-up with an emphasis on the model's inner experiences, and the photographer leaves too much unnecessary space that tells us nothing, this space will most likely look superfluous. Conversely, when the main character interacts with their environment and the photographer doesn't show this interaction, the shot might appear incomplete. And by the way, if the space in the frame is empty, it doesn't mean it tells nothing. The viewer may find it important to know that there's a free space next to the main character. In the early stages, a conscious division into different shot sizes can greatly assist in mastering the art of composition. Over time, once you've trained your eye, you can try mixing different shot sizes and experimenting. Rules are created to first learn the basics and then to try breaking them. But break them wisely and knowingly. Otherwise, these experiments might look more like carelessness. not a display of the photographer's brilliance.